Okay, today we're going to be talking about AutoCAD section cuts, and this is going to be a pretty niche topic because we're not going to be talking about how to generate them, but specifically layer control and, well, actually color control of those section cuts. So we've got a whole problem statement outlined here. I'm going to try to cover this as quickly as I can. Be considerate of your time. I highlight the problem statement in this video that's on my channel at minute 8. That's probably the best place to pick this up, so I'll link it down below. So oftentimes with section cuts, after you cut them, we've got one cut here, and we're cutting these model elements. You're getting all just one color. We know from prior content that this is very easy to fix. You select it, edit style, and you just change this one setting to maintain layer color line type properties. And so now when you do that and you go ahead and refresh, you're going to see that this then uses the correct colors. And we now can see that it's using the colors that our model elements are using. So the problem statement for this is, for example, like let's say that this is elements that are on the general arrangement drawing and the mechanical drawing, and you have other disciplines that need to perform color overrides on these entities for plotting thickness. So specifically, you may imagine that this drawing that I'm in now, imagine that this is a different discipline, and rather than showing this mechanical equipment here, rather than showing that as dark, maybe we need to do a color override to show that as plotting light to indicate that it's not in the scope of work of the electrician to place the mechanical equipment. So very common way that you would do that is you could just go to the XREF here. If you knew the layers that it was using, for example, I know that we're using M&E for some of those, you can just perform a color override here. And so for us, 254 plots the lightest. So we'll do that, and you'll see here that it does affect those model elements correctly. And so this is the only element that had M&E on it. Now, notice it didn't do anything to our section cut here. So we're going to talk today about controlling section cuts, horizontal section cuts within host drawings that bring in the XREF containing your section cuts. And it is shockingly complicated, and so we're going to go over that. So before moving on and demonstrating that, we just showed how to do a color override in this drawing. And so I just ran a plot command on this, and you can see that color override plotting much lighter than everything else. So that's going to be something that you're typically going to be doing if you need to show work by other disciplines as not in scope of work for your trade. So I'm going to go ahead and reload this XREF so that it picks up the changes that we made to our section cut where we enabled the maintain layers and colors. And we're going to try doing the same thing here. You can already see that we've done a color override on layer M&E here, and you can already see that it is not picking up there. If you then use some of the list routines I've developed, which is CLC color layer change version 2, and you can try to select this, it shows you all the sub entities. And even if you go to the base entity here and try to change that base entity, its color, you'll notice that override does not work. You pretty much cannot get this to react to color overrides at all. So we're going to be talking about why that is and the solutions that we found. So to start by understanding this, we can go ahead and select our section. Looking at properties, you can see what type of element it is. So we're just going to duplicate that up here. And we're going to do a explode on this. An explode is going to turn it into a block. It's going to be an anonymous block. And immediately, top left, you can see the color. It has a color override already set on it. This is the core of the problem. And so even if you could do a set by layer, and we can take a look at that in a second. So if we burst this further into base elements, now everything's going to be line work, and we take a look at this, and again, all of this has color overrides applied to everything. So for whatever reason, the back end of CAD, when you're generating a section cut, it is generating everything with color overrides already enabled, and that is why they are not responding to your color overrides in your host drawings that are referencing this in. You cannot get elements to respond to a color override on their layer if there's already been a color override on that element. So you need that. Essentially you would need this to be by layer, and then you can in your other drawing, then you can do an override on this. So in this video here on my channel at minute 8, we talk about this phenomenon, and I recommended a practice of essentially down here having a section cut and then copying that section cut up, bursting, exploding, and then doing a small routine to then control layers. It's not a very scalable practice. It's not going to work for you in big jobs. So the aim of this is to make it a little bit more scalable. Yeah, this is a pretty good view of here we have the section there, and then we're copying it up and bursting it up above. So I think at this point we've identified the problem statement, why this is not working, and why you would want to pursue getting this layer and color control, why you'd want to pursue that. So now we're going to talk about what the actual fix is and what the truths are. So here's an example of all the truths that I've logged, and you can pause, read this. This is going to be the solution that we go over in this one, and so we'll show it to you now. And so everybody knows the settings that my section was generated from to begin with. It's the following, and really regardless of what you do here, you're going to see that it's not doing much for you in terms of achieving our goal. Just a moment ago I said that we're going to take a look at one solution. We're actually going to take a look at two. So if you select your section cut there and you go to edit style, we are going to first show you a solution that's so-so. It's okay, I don't love it. We're going to go to display properties here, and here we're going to hopefully you're familiar with this. If not, I'm not going to go over it here. We're going to select all of these. We are going to set the layer. We're going to pick a layer that makes sense to us. So we could set up like a special section layer if we really wanted to, and we can get rid of all that. And then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to do by layer for color. So it's probably important that you set color and layer to layer and then by layer. Those ones that were still on layer 0, we're not going to worry about because they do not affect us. Okay, so you can see here, this is, it regens that, shows everything on the same color now, and I will show you just when we click on this. Notice that it does still come up as a G section standard, and it is by layer. Obviously we're not seeing that color there because there are color overrides on everything going through this section. If you were to burst, you would see that all of these have a color override to be whatever this color 136 is. Okay, so we've switched over to our other drawing that references in the one that has the section cut in it, and first thing we're going to do is we know that all that stuff's been set to be on M&E, and so it can be as simple as going to XREFs and finding M&E here and changing this then to be 254. So this will work. You're going to see that it changes it on both sides. So this now is going to be a solution for us. You can see that originally, though, when we generated the section cut, that we had these elements here. They were on an electrical layer, whereas this was on a mechanical layer. And you can see that with those settings that we did, it all is now an M&E. So if you needed to be able to cut a section and have some elements control some of the colors, some of the layers on some of the elements, you're not going to be able to. It is a blanket, just blanket on all of the section, unfortunately. So this is not going to be the best solution for us, but it is a solution, and this one's going to be your simplest one. And if everything's of the same discipline type, this would probably be the solution that you'd use. Okay, so we just reset the color override on that drawing. We're going to come back here, and now we're going to try version 2. This is the version that I recommend. And so the way that we're going to do this is we're going to edit that style again. We're not going to revert these by color, by layer changes that we did here because they aren't going to matter here in just a moment. Instead, we're just going to re-enable this design rule to maintain layer and color of base elements, and no regen is needed there. It just goes ahead and updates that. And I've kind of already shown you in the past that you cannot just do a layer override on this. It is not, or color override on this. It is not going to work. So we'll reload this, and instead this time what we're going to use is the XREF override properties. So we'll go here to layer manager. There's a few ways you can get to this. The one that I know is just going to layer manager, coming here to settings, and then we're going to toggle on treat XREF objects property as by layer. And we'll talk about why this works in a second. So you notice immediately no visual changes, but now when I come in here and I go to my models and I select M&E, for example, we're going to see that it only changes for the objects that are on layer M&E. So perfect. Now I can actually, and I could, if I wanted to target these separately because they're on a separate layer, I could, which is great. And these also should then respond to like the CLC commands that change our base. Maybe not. No, CLC is not going to work on these. Take that back. So that's probably the best solution that you can do. A caveat with this is if you do have any line type overrides on your host drawing, like maybe your host drawing shows, or any of your XREFs, maybe they have like your column grids, and your column grids, you've selected all of them, and then up here, you instead of by layer for the column grids, you then selected a line type. You're going to, that is going to negate those changes. You're going to instead, wherever you're hosting those things, you need to change whatever layer your column grids are on. You need to make sure that layer has the line type defined within the layer properties. Don't do, essentially this renders you unable to do any sorts of color overrides or line type overrides in any of the drawings. So just make sure that your team is aware of that. You'll oftentimes run into this issue with probably your column grids and your clearance boxes. So I believe that's all I had to show. We can briefly talk about why did that setting work. So we saw earlier when we exploded then bursted, we saw that everything had a layer override on it. So that setting is forcing AutoCAD to not acknowledge the layer overrides, the color overrides, sorry, within the drawing containing the section. That is why that setting works, and that's why it yields a positive result for us. So hope this helps. This is a rather niche topic. We'll leave it there.